Hi, I'm Sivashri from Zoho Books. It's a pleasure to share a few insights with you about the recent enhancements implemented by the GST network incorporated in Zoho Books, which is aimed at improving the input tax credit management for all taxpayers. Today, we'll explore this unique feature within Zoho Books that simplifies ITC claims for the taxpayers. This feature is nothing but the Invoice Management System IMS, which streamlines the entire process. Let's look into today's agenda on what topics which we will be covering in today's session. Firstly, we'll be seeing what is IMS, how does IMS work, what is the availability and scope of IMS. Moving on, we'll discuss on the advantages of IMS and why businesses should incorporate IMS in their business. Next, we'll be seeing working with IMS in Zoho Books and how we have incorporated this new process in Zoho Books. Finally, we'll be discussing the challenges in IMS handled in Zoho Books along with a few frequently asked questions. Let us first understand what is IMS, what are its scope, and what is the process involved in IMS. As many of you are aware, the complexities surrounding ITC claims have posed significant challenges for businesses and taxpayers. Inaccurate claims, discrepancies in data, and the cumbersome process of reconciliation have often led to confusion and frustration. However, the implementation of a new process by the GST heralds a pivotal change in our approach in managing ITC. The newly introduced process empowers recipient taxpayers with the ability to accept, reject, or temporarily hold invoices pending when claiming their ITC. Let's now explore the availability and scope of IMS. IMS became available on October 14th, allowing taxpayers to utilize it for filing October's returns. Taxpayers can view their transactions within the IMS dashboard after their suppliers have uploaded or filed their respective GSTR 1, 1A, or IFF returns for the respective month. It's important to note some exclusions in this IMS. Not all transactions are processed through the IMS. Certain transactions are directly reflected in your GSTR 2B reconciliation without going through the IMS. These include the reverse charge mechanism invoices, that is, the invoices where the recipient is liable for paying taxes. Next is the ITC ineligible transactions. So these transactions will also not go into the IMS dashboard and it will be directly reflected in your GSTR 2B. Moving on, let's discuss what are the benefits of IMS. The benefits of IMS are pretty clear. First and foremost benefit is increased accuracy. As IMS does validation in real time and processing of transaction, it reduces the risk of errors and discrepancies in ITC claims. It gives faster processing. Here, we have real-time data exchange and actions performed which lead to quicker processing of invoices and input tax credits. It provides better compliance, enhanced monitoring and reporting help businesses adhere to GST regulations more effectively. It gives improved efficiency in ITC claims. IMS has user-friendly features which streamline invoice management and reduce administrative burdens, as the recipients can take necessary actions concerning invoices issued by the suppliers before preparation of their GSTR 3B returns. Valid invoices shall be captured in the system generates GSTR 2B for ITC avails, while invalid invoices will not be captured. Invoices that have not been paid will also be paid in their subsequent months if needed. It hereby minimizes on errors and also ensures that a taxpayer claims the right ITC amount. Let's discuss the flow and actions supported in IMS. Let us assume we are running a retail business and we receive products from our vendors. Once the vendor pushes or files their GSTR 1 returns, those invoices will be populated in our IMS inward supplies dashboard. In this dashboard, we can perform various actions which we will be seeing in the next sections. So generally, the supplier files his GSTR 1 returns and the recipient can take action in his IMS dashboard. The actions supported in IMS are reject, accept, and mark it as pending. Once the action is being performed, the updated transactions will be pushed to the GSTR 2B computation and the GSTR 3B will also be generated accordingly. Here we will be seeing the actions taken and the effects of the action after the recipient takes the action in the IMS dashboard. If the invoice is accurate and if we wish to claim input tax credit, we can simply accept it. Once the invoice has been filed by our vendor in their GSTR 1, 1A or IFF, this will be populated in our GSTR 2B return for that month. If there are any discrepancies or issues with the invoice, we can reject it. This ensures that it is excluded from our ITC report. If we need more time to verify or resolve any queries related to the invoices, we can mark the invoices as pending. This invoice will not be considered in the current return period of the GSTR 2B and will be carried forward to the next subsequent months. It's important to note that we are expected to take action on these invoices within a specific time frame aligned with the vendor's GSTR 1 submission and our GSTR 3B filing deadline. If no action is taken, the transactions will be considered as accepted and will become eligible for ITC. So, now we are seeing IMS in GST Portal. This is how we are going to access the IMS in GST Portal. Once you log in into your GST Portal, you will be able to navigate to the services option given there. Under services, click on returns and you will be having an option of IMS dashboard. In the IMS dashboard, if you click on the IMS dashboard of inward supplies, all the transaction that has been pushed or filed by your vendors will be shown under this dashboard along with the actions taken against those transactions. So this is this overview of the IMS dashboard in the GST Portal. Now let us continue on seeing IMS flow made simpler in Zoho Books. Introducing IMS in Zoho Books as an exclusive feature to make the reconciliation and ITC claims easy for our users. Let us now quickly look on how IMS has been implemented and how it works in Zoho Books. Here, we will be considering a scenario where I run a clothing business and Zian is my vendor who supplies multiple garments for my business. Now, Zian's invoices will be recorded as bills in Zoho Books, and when Zian uploads his GSTR 1 returns, those transactions will be available in my GST IMS dashboard under inward supplies. Now let's see how these will be fetched and processed in Zoho Books. In Zoho Books, you will be able to pull the transactions from your IMS dashboard from GST Portal, and we reconcile the pulled transactions with those available in Zoho Books, and we categorize them into different categories as in the GSTR 2B report to make it easier to perform the actions for those invoices. And then we push back the action updated transaction to the GSTIN so that your GSTR 2B and 3B will be generated accordingly. In Zoho Books, we have two sections under this module. Invoice Management System of Inward Supplies. This is to verify the inward supplies submitted by our vendors to GSTIN. Invoice Management System of Outward Supplies. This is to verify the outward supplies. This will be implemented in future once made available in the GSTIN. Now, let us have a brief overview about the IMS inward supplies in Zoho Books. The IMS for inward supplies has three major operations. They include pull transactions from GSTIN, perform the actions supported in IMS, push the action updated transactions back to the GSTIN for GSTR 2B summary generation and ITC liability. The sections involved in IMS of inward supplies are the overview section, the review transaction section, and the pull to GSTIN section. Let me just show you in Zoho Books this. So here, if you navigate to the GST filing module, and if you click on the view returns tab, you'll be getting an option of IMS dashboard. So under the IMS dashboard, we are supporting two sections. One is IMS of inward supplies, and the next is IMS of outward supplies. Under the IMS of inward supplies, if you click on view summary, we'll be having three tabs, and this is the three major operations supported: overview, review transaction, and push to GSTIN. In the overview section, we will be having pull from GSTIN button, and upon clicking it, the transactions from GSTN will be fetched and reconciled with the purchase transactions that is available in Zoho Books, and we will be able to see the status of the invoices pulled from the GSTN. As discussed earlier, all the invoices pushed or filed by my vendor in his GSTR1 will be fetched in my overview tab. We will be able to view all the B2B invoices, credit notes, debit notes and e-commerce invoices generated by our suppliers, and after fetching these details, we can proceed to perform the actions in the next review transactions section. So this is the overview tab, and we'll be having pull from GSTN button here, and upon clicking this, the transactions will be fetched from the GSTN, and here I have already fetched the transactions. So this is how the transactions will be listed. So we'll be having B2B invoices, debit notes, credit notes and e-commerce invoices, and the actions against those invoices will also be shown here. So next comes the review transactions section. In the review transactions section, Zoho Books will automatically reconcile the invoices from GSTN with the bills created here, and the transactions will be auto-populated in 3 tabs, which is matched, partially matched and missing in Zoho Books. These tabs are very much similar to the tabs that we already have in our GSTR 2B reconciliation. In addition to this, we will also have the review tab to view actions taken on the transactions in the previous tabs. So this is how our review transaction tab looks. Let me also show you the live demo on Zoho Books. So if we navigate to the review transactions tab, the transaction that has been pulled earlier will be automatically categorized with comparing with the transactions that we have already created in Zoho Books, and it will be categorized as matched, partially matched and missing in Zoho Books. So the transactions where all the details of the vendor's invoice and our Zoho Books bill matches, it will be shown under the match tab. If there is any mismatches with the transaction details, then it will be shown under the partially matched tab, and if the invoice itself is not being created in Zoho Books, then it will be shown under the missing in Zoho Books tab. Finally, if we perform any action in these tabs, say now I am rejecting this particular invoice, this will be moved to the review tab. So whatever the action we perform in the previous 3 tabs, those transactions will be moved to the review tab, so that we can review all the actions that we have taken and we can move on to the next section. So the actions supported in different tabs has been shown here. For the matched transactions, we provide accept and pending action. You can mark these as either accepted or pending. As we discussed with an example earlier, if Zian's invoice details exactly match with the bill I have created in Zoho Books, then those transactions will be populated and I can check and take the action on these by either accepting it or marking them as pending. In the partially matched tab, you can accept, reject it or mark these invoices as pending upon checking the bills you have created. If Zian's invoices have few fields mismatched with the bill I have created, then those transactions will be populated here. We can check the bill we have created, and if there are any mistakes in our bill, we can edit it and accept it, or we can reject it or mark it as pending. Moving on to the missing in Zoho Books tab, the transactions populated here are not found in Zoho Books, and hence you will be able to only reject it or mark them as pending. If in case you feel you have missed to add any bills in Zoho Books, then you can add the same in Zoho Books so that it will be automatically reconciled in matched or partially matched tabs. Finally, under the review tab, you can view all the transaction and its action taken, and you can review it once before pushing it to the GSTIN. Last comes the push to GSTIN tab. In this section, all the transaction with actions updated earlier has to be pushed back, and updated actions will reflect in the IMS dashboard in GSTN. Here we have 2 sections. One is ready to be pushed and pushed. Let us see it in Zoho Books. So after reviewing the transaction here, so let me also accept one transaction. After reviewing the transaction here, we will be moving on to the push to GSTN section. So here the transactions will be listed. So if I click on this push to GSTN, this transaction with the updated actions will be pushed to the GST portal, and in the GST portal you will be able to see these transactions with these actions taken. So this is so once after pushing it to the GST portal, these two transactions will be moved from ready to be pushed to the pushed tab. We also have an option of failed transactions tab. So if there is any failure in the push while initiating it, those transactions will be listed here so that we can check and verify it before filing our returns. So this is how it looks in Zoho Books. Now let us have another poll here. Thank you for your poll participation. Moving on to the next, let's discuss few unique cases and its solutions in Zoho Books. Even though this system has numerous benefits and makes tax payment and reconciliation easy for the taxpayers, it has its own challenges. Let's delve deep into the possible challenges in the IMS and how it has been seamlessly handled in Zoho Books. There might arise a question as to what will happen to the transactions for which we miss to take any action. The answer to this is deemed accepted. Yes, if there is no action taken against any transaction, then those transactions will be automatically considered as accepted in the GSTR 2B for input tax credit calculation. Next is, if there are any changes to be taken to the actions, what can be done? To simplify this, we have an option called reset. Yes, we can reset the action taken so that once we reset the action, you will be able to edit the action that you have previously taken, and then you can push the action updated transaction to the GST portal. What if the actions made in IMS is changed after the GSTR 2B summary generation? To simplify this process, you can regenerate the GSTR 2B after every new update in the action so that the appropriate ITC will be computed. There is no such limit to generate the GSTR 2B summary. Let us discuss a case for the taxpayers under the QRMP scheme. How does IMS work for the QRMP taxpayers? When QRMP taxpayers submit their records via the IFF, these documents subsequently flow into the IMS for the recipient. As a result, the information captured becomes part of the recipient's GSTR 2B contingent on the actions taken by the recipient in IMS. It is essential to understand the timing and frequency of GSTR 2B generation, particularly for the QRMP taxpayers. Unlike regular taxpayers whose GSTR 2B is generated monthly, the GSTR 2B for QRMP taxpayers is presented on a quarterly basis. This means that the records for months M1 and M2 will not be associated, and the GSTR 2B will be represented only in the last month of the quarter. Which transactions will be pushed to GSTN? To clarify this, we request you to note that all the transactions with actions updated in Zoho Books will be pushed to the GSTIN when we initiate the push to GSTN button. How long the records will be present in the IMS dashboard? All records, accepted, rejected transactions will move out of the IMS dashboard upon filing the corresponding GSTR 3B for that particular return period. Any pending records will remain on the IMS dashboard and can be accepted or rejected in the future month. Now, let us see few frequently asked questions related to this IMS functionality. Who will have access to IMS functionality? All the taxpayers registered as normal taxpayers, including the SEZ unit and SEZ developers, will be having the access to IMS functionality. Which records will be included on the IMS dashboard? All the transactions pushed by your supplier, excluding the RCM and ITC ineligible transactions, will be available in the IMS dashboard, and the same can be fetched into Zoho Books. Is it mandatory to act on IMS? It is not mandatory to act on this, but to have an accurate claim in ITC, it's better to use the IMS to verify the supplier's transaction against the bills you have created in Zoho Books. What will happen to the transactions that are kept in pending in IMS? The transaction kept in pending in IMS will remain in your IMS dashboard and will be carried forward to the upcoming month's return. Can I take action multiple times on a record in IMS? Yes, you can. You can take actions multiple times before the GSTR 3B filing so that the ITC can be computed accurately. What happens if the supplier edits their invoice after I perform action in Zoho Books? If the supplier edits and uploads the invoice, you can pull it from the GSTN once again, reset the reconciliation, make the necessary changes in the action and then push it back so that the action updated transaction will be pushed to the GST portal. What if I wrongly reject an invoice? So here as I mentioned earlier, we have an option to reset the action taken. So we can mark as no action for those transactions, and then those transactions will be reconciled and we can perform actions on those transactions again. What will happen if the supplier didn't file the GSTR 2B return? So if the supplier fails to file their GSTR 1 return, then those transactions will not be populated in your GSTR 2B reconciliation report. So your supplier has to file their GSTR 1, 1A or IFF return for you to get those transactions in a GSTR 2B report. Can I take action on the transactions after the 14th of the filing month? Yes, you can take actions, but you have to note that after taking action, you have to recompute the GSTR 2B report to calculate the ITC accordingly. So if you have any queries, you can reach out to us in the email ID support.india@zohobooks.com, and you can also reach to our helpline number. Thank you.